Morning, everybody. My name's Oliver McEntyre. I work for Barclays Agriculture. I have the joy of the position that is National Strategy Director within the agricultural team at Barclays. Obviously, it's a very different year this year. Welcome to my world. I'm afraid it's a very dull sort of magnolia world in the background for you, but there we are. It's the world we are living in. I think we're going to get started reasonably promptly. So welcome to the RABDF Virtual Business and Policy Conference 2020. As I said, usually we'd all be in London face to face, but it's a very different and very challenging year. The topic for today's Q&A session is issues, challenges and opportunities for today's dairy producers. And there's a bit of housekeeping. First of all, I will just thank the sponsors because, as I understand and know, we work very closely with RABDF and have done for well over a decade now to get events like this on, and obviously Dairy Tech and other events. But a big thank you to For Farmers, and a really big thank you to Laylee too, and of course a big thank you to us as well. Anyway, I better not mention that too much. We've got a really great panel for you this morning. We've got a few questions already coming in. So a little bit of housekeeping. If you could just pop your video off. We all live in very rural areas, and if we can keep the videos off and keep it to the panel and myself, that helps with bandwidth. And if you can go on mute, really distracting with background noise. A lot of us are getting very used to this sort of scenario of sitting in offices and kitchens and back bedrooms, but it is very distracting if somebody doesn't know they're on mute. So just keep checking that mute button if you will. If you want to ask a question, and I sincerely hope you do, otherwise it's going to be a really quiet hour of me desperately thinking of more questions for the panels. If you go to on my iPad, it's the three little dots that says more, and up there is a chat function. If you're on a PC or laptop, the chat function may actually be available to you without clicking that. But if you're on iPhone or Android, you click the three little dots which says more, and then you just click chat, and you can type in your questions. So we'll happily put those to the panel. As I said, a very illustrious panel of 4 Gold Cup winners. I'm going to hand to them to do their intros because I'm sure I won't do them justice. So I think, as is the face I can see on my screen, I think we'll go to Mike King first. Mike, can you just give us a 1-minute intro to yourself, your farm, and when you actually won the Gold Cup?
All right, thanks, Oliver. My farm, Mike King Farm, with my brother Chris, down in South Gloucestershire. We won the Gold Cup in quite a long time ago, 2010, and we milk at approximately 600 cows at the moment, but we're looking to expand up to another 100 cows on to take us up to 700. With a new building. We're currently supplying M&S through Muller, and we also have an arable enterprise and grow maize, about 500 acres of maize as well.
Thank you, Mike. And we're going to head north. We're going to go up to Bill in Shropshire. Bill, give us your 1-minute intro.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, I'm 54 years old, married to Paula. We have a son, Ben, and a daughter, Emma, both involved in a business. Business is run in conjunction with my brother, Andrew, and our parents are sort of semi-retired now. We're taking it easy. We farm a closed herd of 530 cows. We average 13,625 litres sold per cow per year, which equates to 985 kilos of solids. Main areas of interest for me within the business are nutrition, welfare of cows and staff. Our farm, I've done a lot of travelling, looking at farming systems around the world. So Israel, Japan, United States, Canada, New Zealand, and also our farm, I chair the Tesco Sustainable Dairy Group for within Muller. Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill. We're going to head south again. So there's a Somerset contingent on the panel today. We're going to head down to Neil. Neil, if you can do your intro, that'd be fabulous.
Hi, I'm Neil Baker. We farm 2,000 cows near Yeovil in South Somerset. I'm 4th generation. I, like Bill, have got 2 children now involved in the business, which is great news. So they are 5th generation dairy farmers now. We sell to Arla, so our focus is high composition, milk solids sold. So we're selling about 12,000, but we try and sell 2.8 kilograms of solids a day. That's our focus. So to that end, we now have about 400 to 500 animals of Jersey origin, either purebred or cross, which has been my project for the last 5 years, which is working really well. Do all our own cropping, all our own foraging, everything. We're all our own heifers. Employ about 45 people now. And I think the new, and I think some questions probably will come up on the environmental aspect. And I think our focus now is very much on the environment and carbon footprinting and impact reduction, especially around here as we're in the catchment for the Somerset levels. So.
Yeah, huge issues, Neil. I'm sure we will talk about that. I kid you not. It doesn't matter whether it's internal or external calls. I think 80 to 90% of the calls I'm having at the moment are all mentioning or based on environmental aspects, greenhouse gas, carbon footprint, etc., etc. Huge issue. Right, on to our final panelist, and we're heading back north up to glorious North Yorkshire. Tough to say as a Lancastrian, but there we are. Philip, can you do your intro?
Good morning, everyone, and thanks a lot for asking me to be on the panel today, RABDF. We were proud winners of the Gold Cup in 2018, which doesn't seem long ago at all, but at the time does fly. So we farmed 3,000 acres in North Yorkshire, along with my two brothers, and we've also got 3 of the next generation starting to take responsibility in the business, which Neil said, which is really good. It's a really nice feeling. We have 1,300 pedigree Holsteins on a house system, 950 followers that are grazed in the summer from 6 months old. Herd is currently averaging 11,000 litres. That runs alongside a 200 kilowatt anaerobic digester that runs off the cow slurry. We've diversified over the years into agricultural contracting and heavy haulage. More recently, buildings located at Washwell Farm are rented out to other businesses, including a tractor dealership, a newly formed vet practice, which we're really excited to be shareholders in, and also on site we have quarrying and a concrete planting operation. So that's my intro. Cheers.
Excellent. Thank you, Philip. Great haulage business. One of the things I'm missing with no travel at the moment is getting stuck behind one of your low loaders, carrying some very heavy kit up and down various A roads. But anyway, I'm sure they're still moving, even if I'm not. I think we're going to start with the first sort of question. We can't ignore it because otherwise it'd be like the elephant in the room. But I really don't want this hour to dwell on COVID-19 and the year we've had. But I just think it would be an interesting starting point to say to all the panelists, it's been such a challenging year. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. Mercifully, core agriculture has not been as badly affected as some of the sort of hospitality and leisure type businesses. But if I could ask all the panelists, and we'll start with you, Philip, because you're on screen. What do you think we can learn as an industry in 2020 for 2021 and beyond? And has COVID-19 had an impact on your business? Obviously, we saw that milk price, spot price crash in March, April, May, but luckily, thankfully, recovered very quickly. So what can we learn? What alterations have you had to make to your businesses, and has it altered your sort of strategic planning? And we'll come to you, Philip, first, as you're the box on my screen at the minute.
Well, luckily we haven't been affected too much yet, but with the test and trace system in now, it might be a situation where you get a team of staff all have to be taken off all at once, which could cause real problems. So we are sort of trying to look at doing contingencies for that. Also, I don't know if the COVID job was affecting the weather forecast, but during the summer we were trying to make good quality silage around weather forecasts, and it just never seemed to pan out that way. And 2 of our cuts this year, they met the target of quality that we were looking for, so the cows aren't just milking as well off the back of that. Meetings like this, I think the technology, post-COVID, I think we were doing a lot more meetings like this. It saves you travelling up and down the country, is quite very convenient, I would say.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm missing the human interaction. starting to starting to get back to meetings, and then suddenly we're in lockdown again. But certainly missing the human interaction, sat in my back bedroom 12 hours a day. Neil, we'll just go in reverse all of our intro. Neil, what effect has it had on your business down there in Somerset, and what challenges and what sort of changes are you thinking of putting into your business to counteract them, if any?
I think we had a slight milk price dip with Arla, but they've recovered, so that was the biggest effect financially. I think staff-wise, off the back of Brexit, we already have an accelerated turnover of staff, with not that it really costs too much more, but it's a cost of retraining and guys. Went into quite a lot of British staff with some success, some not success. But I think this is a kind of Brexit carryover, really. So we've certainly got a lot more staff now doing odd shifts, which is a challenge from an HR point of view. Not it's a bad thing, I think. I mean, I think our guys average 60 hours a week, and I'm not sure they're at their best after 50 hours. So I think that's one of the things that's the focus on human health rather than cow health, is what we've just talked about for the last 20 years. But that, mental health issues around us all being locked away, and we're not, my guys were supposed to go home for holidays and they haven't gone home to see family, and so I think better facilities, better housing, better training, better equipment is a big focus for us next year, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a real challenge. I've often said, that farming is quite an isolated industry by nature. We tend to sort of, certainly in my farm management days, if I didn't go and do the weekly shop, I barely got out at the end of the farm lane. But to have this enforced isolation is a very different kettle of fish. I will go to Bill next. Bill, any challenges this year because of COVID, and anything you're going to change in light of it?
Well, a lot of the things that Neil's just covered, I would agree with. We've touched on them. We're fortunate we've got a very settled team. We haven't had a huge turnover. I mean, initially in the year there was a slight milk reduction. Muller encouraged us all to reduce production, so we had some challenges there. So we had some challenges, a little bit of challenge about staff, and especially for our European staff, about actually going home, what have you. We have managed to get some of them home and back again, and get through it. But I think the big thing for me is that whilst you're running around looking after everybody else, don't forget to manage your own head, because they all look to you, and it's crucial. Yeah, don't forget about yourself, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. My brother and I have a tale that when you think you can't take a break or you can't have a day off is exactly when you should be taking some time off, because your brain's heading towards fried. Mike, over to you. I won't repeat the question. I'm sure you've been listening in.
Yep, very similar to Bill. We had through Miller, we had to reduce our milk percentage, so we had some challenges getting rid of barren cows at the time. But that was, we worked our way through that. Two biggest things for us. One, because we were due to embark on an expansion this time. Unfortunately, our planning permission was registered at the council on the 20th of March. So we'd hoped that on a timeline we'd be building by now, and we're going to be lucky, we've been told, to start the project until the spring of next year before we're going to get the app there, actually look at that application. That's given us some challenges because actually we'd already factored in the crops, and the cows are on stream, so we've had to do a little bit of juggling to still increase the numbers, move young cattle out to some contract rearing. On the staffing side, initially, the issues were around different to the rest of the panel. Mine all seemed to get on an airplane and go before the lockdown. So,
oh dear.
I was quite glad that the universities were closed, because both mine two aren't in the business at the moment. One's at Nottingham studying to be a vet and is completely cow daft. and the other ones wants to go and work with Oliver when he's done an economics degree. So, but fortunately, they were pretty full hands on. They got us through it, and also my herd manager, both of his children were off school, and fortunately they can milk cows and scrape yards. So we sort of got our way through it until the farm guys realised that actually they, things weren't quite as bad as they thought it was going to be, and they all appeared back again. So well, that's what covers it.
That's a good news story, Mike, and especially you had access to all those sort of late teens, early 20s people, because what's the old phrase? Employ a teenager while they still know everything. Yeah. I've got to as well. Gosh, you wouldn't think I'd learnt anything in my 51 years. Right, we've got a question coming in from Phil Christopher. What is the potential for producer organisations to achieve supply management and create real leverage for farmers in the supply chain, and demand that sort of power balance with milk buyers? And we'll stick with you, Mike. You're on the screen now. You're a sharp lad. I'm sure you've got lots of time to think about it. I'll pad for another 8 seconds while you think, okay? Over to you, Mike.
It's tricky one. Some organisations, I think with some of the groups, I expect Bill will chip in with what Tesco and Miller have done. I think M&S and that have done. There is quite a bit of chat between the producer organisations and the retailers and processors. I think it's still obviously very much at their discretion that milk prices are cut, and you don't have, obviously, it's a bit of a one-way street, but I mean, it is still, there is a conversation that goes on, which I think is positive. I just think that, there has to be better understanding and openness up and down the supply chain. Because I think that's, as farmers, sometimes we're quite guilty of, we don't understand the pressures some of the processors are under. If they got too much milk at the wrong time of year, and, supermarkets don't want it, or, it's into the commodity market, they are facing a pretty tough tough time themselves, and that pain is passed back down to us, obviously. So it is. I don't think it's an easy one to solve. I'll be interested to see what government comes out with. Obviously, we had Victoria Prentice on here the other day. I know that her and George Eustace are quite involved in the contract. Government looking at the contracts between farmers and processors, and it'd be interesting to see what they actually recommend, because there will be some recommendations there, and Eustace is saying that those aren't going to be optional, they're going to be written into law. So it'd be, and I'm not sure for Arla there's any benefit in that, because I think Arla are doing a really good job anyway, but obviously for some of the really more I won't say smaller businesses, but because that'd be unkind to them, but there's some of the other processes that are got different challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me that one of the attributes of a key business of management in a business is actually interacting with the processor, and that doesn't matter whether it's milk or any commodity in agriculture and any commodity in any sector of industry. And I think it's getting better these days, but I often think that the processors are seen as the enemy, not the client some days. Good two-way communication is vital. Bill, I believe Mike nominated you next, I think, in his reply. So we'll come to you, Bill.
Okay, cheers, Mike. I chair the Muller Tesco group, and I've been heavily involved in that for a very long, since the inception of the group. It is very difficult because obviously I spend a lot of time talking to varying levels of people throughout Tesco's, and they fully understand where we are, and they fully understand that if we're not profitable, if we're not successful, if we're not investing, if we're not doing what we've got to do, we're not going to be there, and they want us. So they do understand, and it's not for me to defend or big up Tesco's, that's just a fact of life. The beauty of what we've got is that we have a relationship where we can have an honest conversation. So we can have directors of Tesco's, we can meet Dave Lewis or whoever, or Jason Tarry, and talk to them straight, with or without our processor. So we have an ongoing relationship. they're not foolish. They haven't got to where they've got to by being foolish. There's lots of arguments about who controls what and who does what, but at the end of the day, they need us, they like us. All they expect us to do is do a good job. And from a pricing and how we farm basis, there's a lot of systems and a lot of protocols built into what we do to actually protect and help us from what's coming at us through feed trackers and fuel trackers and other things. You know, we can argue the minutiae of it, but, you know, we are, as a group of farmers, as with M&S, Waitrose, Co-op and others, in a good place. We're not making tons of money, but the job is okay. So, you know, yeah, I don't know what more to say really. So yeah.
Okay. We've got thanks Phil for well, thanks Bill. Before it looks like I've got people's names wrong. So thanks for your response, Bill. Phil Christopher, who posted the question originally, has just put an amend in. Maybe I misread it. Apologies if I did, Phil. I'm trying to work off WhatsApp, Zoom, and my notepad all at the same time. And anybody who knows me knows that I find finding two things at once a challenge, let alone trying to do three things at once and still resemble something intelligent. He's basically said he was driving towards more independent POs. My guess is potentially looking at setting up new POs across the sector. So I'll come to you next, Neil. And if I could also just ask you, Neil, and Philip, actually, if you can just lean into your microphone a little bit. It's a little bit quiet when you're replying. So if you can lean into the computer or iPad, that would be great. Neil, what do you think the potential is for starting or engaging with new PO organisations?
Well, the history of our business is we made farmhouse cheese on the farm for 50 years. And when really retail competition pushed us out of cheese production, I was very keen to get involved with a dairy cooperative. That's why we bought into Arla at the first opportunity, because we wanted to have, some say in our milk buyer. And I think the power of Arla is what's keeping the milk price up, not only for Arla farmers, but for everybody else. And what do Arla do? They don't focus on selling milk. They focus on selling dairy products and innovate. And I'm afraid a milk buyer who's in tow to the liquid market is not where the future is going to be. I think the future of milk is to stop selling milk. It's a lost leader. You're not going to
Would you like to expand on that?
You're not going to make farmers much money, are you? Look at the relative milk price we got now for liquid milk. It is a lost leader, and it will never be any different.
And it also appears, especially on this year's sort of form, if you will, it's obviously the most volatile as well. That if we are going to have these pandemics and lockdowns and changes in how businesses operate, it's also the most vulnerable, perhaps. Philip, moving on to you. I'm sure the sun's shining in North Yorkshire. It's glorious in Lancashire on the dark side of the Pennines. What do you think the opportunities are for independent POs within the UK dairy sector?
Yeah, again, possibly something written in with the government, but independent, I don't know. I think we might struggle because getting everyone to cooperate is quite a difficult thing. I agree with Neil. I think Arla is sort of holding the milk price all the time, whether we like it or not. We sell to a middle ground milk purchaser, and he's basically following Arla, so that's where we are. So unless something's maybe written into law like that was discussed the other day, I'm not so sure.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to come to another question, and forgive me, I think it might have been Neil who mentioned it originally, but I'm going to come to you first, Bill, so listen and prepare. So much talk, public money for public good, emissions, net zero by 2040 for carbon and greenhouse gases. We've got ELMS potentially delayed, given the current climate coming in. Do you see, is this an opportunity, the current transition period as we move to public money for public good and travel to net zero? Is it an opportunity or is it a threat to the UK dairy sector? And I think I'll add a little bit on to that, which is, what are you doing on your farm at the minute in relation to heading towards net zero? So I'll come to you first, Bill.
Okay, thanks for that. There's quite a list there. So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is an opportunity and a threat, as all changes always is. From a business point of view, you know, we're looking to get more milk from forage. We're looking for more better use of resource. You know, we're looking. We do a lot of conservation work, planting trees and conservation bird cover strips. We're doing a lot of work. I mean, I think what we're really bad at is actually telling people the good stuff that we do every day, because the assumption is that we're rubbish and we're naughty people and we're doing bad stuff. And even down to the basics, I always get pretty cross about people talking about what we feed our cows and how much we feed and all the rest of it. The vast majority of the stuff that we put down a cow's throat, apart from the forage that we grow at home, is a byproduct of the human food industry. We're recycling on an industrial scale, and people we seem to park that up and ignore that and never bigged up that work that we do, as well as the add-ons. So yeah, we are custodians of the countryside. You know, we are on show all the time. Everything we do, or good or bad, is to be seen. But I think we need to do a better job of actually talking about the normal day job and the good stuff that actually that provides, as well as the bolt-ons and the things that are coming to us. The emissions, a lot of the emission stuff is based around efficiency, and it depends which way you want to dress up your numbers and how you want to work it, because anybody can make anything sound good. And everybody's got a system of measuring whatever it is, and it depends on what their chosen outcome is or their direction of travel they would like to see it going. But I think we are missing a basic opportunity of communication.
Can I ask you, Bill, because what none of the panel will realise is the longer the question I ask, the less I have to do during this. But Bill's, I think, is onto it already. Can I just ask you in a simple yes, no, or one sentence answer? Have you had a carbon audit, or are you looking at having a carbon audit on your farm? A natural capital audit?
Yes, we have one every year.
Cool, lovely. Mike, we'll come down to Somerset. All those amazing levels and all that amazing scenery you've got down there. Is elms and public money for public good?
More, sort of the operational setup of BGS in terms of the systems. So we've now moved the mobile phone contracts were up for renewal at the end of
I think we've got somebody else on the line.
I think we've got somebody else on there. Sorry.
Somebody needs muting.
Someone needs muting. They've got an interesting mobile phone contract, so that's good.
Yeah.
Mike's giving me an extra 30 seconds, mate. What are you doing about it?
First of all, Oliver, we're not on the Somerset levels. Thank goodness, because that is
you can see him from that hill.
Yeah, that is a big challenge. We are in a catchment sensitive area. In the what they call a Laddenbrook sensitive, it feeds into the local rivers. Challenges, I agree with Bill. I think it's a challenge and an opportunity. My big concern is in around environmental permitting, if I'm honest. If they follow the poultry industry and the pig industry in environmental permitting, that's going to be interesting. £10,000 each one of us will have to pay to get our permit. That's I can't remember off the top of my head how long that lasts for, but it's got to be renewed, so that's not £10,000 once. It took the pig industry 3.5 years to do that, and there's less than 1,000 of them. How the heck they think they're going to do all of us in this very short period, I'm not quite sure. It would be also good that, you know, I think we all have to identify that slurry is the issue for a lot of us, and it's how we deal with that. Obviously, if you've got an AD plant, that's, you know, helping straight away. For those of us who are not lucky enough to get that grid connection to be able to do that, you know, there's challenges in how we're going to deal with the slurry. I think we need to start now. We in part of our process, we identified when we started the new unit that we needed to build into the factor that slurry was going to be that thing that, you know, is going to trip us up down the line. So, you know, putting things in future plan in the business so that we could adapt quickly when it came to it. I mean, we did such things like putting additional pipelines in, being ready to put, you know, roofs and covers on stuff if necessary. But I think that the government needs some strong guidance, because if it's anything like some of the other capital grant schemes, and small capital grants is a classic example, they're really good, but they're not aimed towards those of us who've got most of that stuff already. And it's, the capital grants really need to be taking that next big step towards, helping us with the environmental issue. And I agree with Bill. One thing we're really rubbish about is actually telling everybody that we actually are doing a pretty good job anyway. And actually, there's some things that can be improved on, without a doubt. But it's not bad, and we're not damaging the planet at all. There's a lot of positive things to come out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But then, growing up on quite an intensive pig unit as I did, it's a theme, isn't it? As an industry, we're not very good at communicating what we're doing, why, and as you say, the benefits of that. Philip, you do have an AD plant, which I assume you use to manage your slurry. Well, I know you use to manage your slurry. What opportunity or threat, public money for public good, and what sort of things are you doing on your farm to sort of begin the process and the journey to net zero?
Yeah, well, we don't have that written into our milk contract, but we are looking, for the future, being really efficient with electricity, water, things like that. I'm quite a fan of possibly covering the slurry stores in the future, because if you can stop the emissions, surely that's going to improve the nutrient value of your slurry. It would help your bottom line, saving artificial fertilizer usage on that one. So that's what we are doing. If you wanted to carry on about the elm schemes, I just think I think the positives, because most of us farmers do like nature, like to enhance it, so it all ties in what you want to do, and hopefully it all sends a positive message out to the consumer. But like Mike said, we aren't very good at doing that. Or was it Bill? We've got to get that message out there, haven't we? So.
Yeah, I think it was all three of us and you now. So I doubt Neil will argue with us that we're fabulous at getting the message out there. And certainly, the biodiversity in the landscape is hugely important, and it is a frustration when it's held up as agriculture is the reason for a decline in songbirds or brown hare or whatever, because it does make us all sound like we're just there manipulating the land and not actually being custodians of it, which we all are. Neil, any actions on your farm to sort of counteract the journey to net zero? And do you see this public money, public good as a threat? If you can lean in and speak up, Neil, that'd be grand for me. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the permitting is going to be a big issue for the industry. I think a lot of people have invested a lot of money in facility. My concern is for the people that haven't invested a lot in facility already, will they be able to catch up? We had a communication from our district council yesterday, being in the Somerset Levels catchment, and they're basically now taking a presumption for no development of anything because of phosphates on the Somerset Levels. And I think this is a real direction of travel. It won't be, can you get a milk contract? Can you get guys over from Europe to milk the cows? Can you actually get a permit to license in the future, a license to operate? And the only way we're going to do it is investing from the milk price. And we can't rely on government grants to sort this out. So we have to convince the public we're doing a good job, and then they'll invest in the milk price, and then we'll invest in on the farms. So I can't see, with the levels of government debt, there's not going to be a whole host of money coming our way, because we are currently seen as the bad guys. So we have to interact at government level, and I think we're really bad at that, telling the people who actually make the laws and the decisions about it. Sorry, carry on, Neil. One of the challenges, I think, we're carbon footprinted through Arla and through Tesco's, and they're different. And my concern is what is right. We talk about net zero, we talk about zero, we talk about 2040, 2050. Who's measuring it? What are we measuring? And is it even accurate? And I think that is a real challenge. Everything's historic, and if we're going to be actually measured what is a public good, how are we going to measure what the public good is?
Yeah, I think there is for us as a financial organisation, looking at carbon sequestration, the carbon markets, you know, let's just remember, agriculture is one of the very few industries that, is an emitter, and we're working on that. And I think, as Mike and Bill said, you know, we're better than we think we are at it if we sit down and think about all the actions we take. But it's also one of the few industries that can actually pull carbon and greenhouse gas out of the atmosphere as well. You know, if you think of some of the other industries, not a hope in hell of being able to sequestrate carbon if you're in the transport or manufacturing in a warehouse in a city. So you know, that is also a good news story and a great opportunity as well. I think we'll move on to another question. What I will say is, if you go to that chat option, click on chat, you can type your question in. You can type it in anonymously, which is always a word I struggle with, anonymously if you like. But do please type a question in, and we will pick it up, and it will get sent through to me on WhatsApp, which is brilliant. We're living in a world where technology, I get a little bit frustrated about agri-tech being a buzzword, if I'm honest. When I think back to growing up on a small pig farm, and I think of the innovation that came in the 15 years I was involved day to day with the pig industry, you know, technology and innovation, it's always been there, but it's a real buzzword. And I think the speed at which it's growing now is remarkably quicker than it was. We, as an organisation, Barclays, have just opened an Eagle Lab dedicated to agri-tech in Lincoln. What innovations do you guys see as being most helpful for the dairy sector? And what, I suppose, in a dream or fantasy world, what innovation would you like to see? Because I know Apple do this thing where they don't try and progress any of their developments from what they've got. They think of what they want, and then they send a team out to go and do it. So if you guys had a wish list, we'll come to Mike first. I think if you had a wish list, what would you like to see innovation-wise for your unit or the UK sector, and what do you think your next investment might be in, apart from your building? Apart from your building, Mike, when you get to it.
Difficult, yeah. Bit more think time, Oliver, on this one. But, yeah.
Sorry.
I think I would say the thing that we probably would benefit from is a bit more integration in some of the technology that we have got at the moment. Some of it's very standalone. I know there's a lot of companies out there working on it, and we're running a project at the moment ourselves where, you know, we're trying to link everything that comes back from the feeder wagon and from you know, the straight store, and you know, and trying to link that in. I'd like it, you know, the uniform programs of such like, and some of the Cow Connect type programs to try and link in with Zero. You know, we've moved over to Zero and found that it's given us real time costings on each enterprise, each operation. And that is, I'd like to be able to see that we could get more integration from that side of it. I'd like to get young stock and our calf rearing unit, sort of some of the data and numbers from that into a form that we can use more productively than we are at the moment, and actually put some more live costings in and around it. So yeah, I think that's the key area I would be focusing on at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I promise not to come to you first for the rest of this session. How's that? Is that a deal?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Bill, we'll come to you. I'm going down the list in order. So we'll go to Bill next. What innovation would you like to see, and what was the last? What's your next investment going to be in? Do you feel?
Well, the biggest one that, you know, it's been talked about before, and I think it is the bedrock, and it ties in with what we've already been talking about, is the dewatering of slurry, because there's a huge opportunity if they can pull that off. You know, it's going to solve so many problems, and it's actually going to help a lot of arable farmers as well, because the economics of shifting the fibers and the solids from us to, you know, arable areas is dead in the water as in its present form. But if we can actually dewater this product and get it down into a saleable product, you know, because we're looking at the ability to soil condition and help actually store carbon in soil that's pretty much dead because they're not actually getting the structure back into it. So for me and our business, you know, me and Andrew talk about it a lot, you know, it is the holy grail, because it just revolutionizes everything. it revolutionised it from an environmental, from everything, the whole picture. So as far as as far as us going forward, we are in a, if you like, at the moment, sort of the business is in a holding pattern, because we're just trying to see where we go from here. We've always targeted about 600 cows. We will get there in the near future. There's other things that we'd like to do, but we're not looking to fundamentally break the wheel, because the wheel's rolling nicely and it's going well, and it's a case of replicating, just keep doing what we're doing and enjoy it. And we're not stepping back, and we're not coasting, because there's a lot of daily demands. So yeah.
One of my father's favourite phrases, Bill: if it isn't broke, don't fix it. Once you get an operating rhythm, stick with it until something does need changing. Neil, innovation galore in the sector and across the whole of agriculture. But what would you like to see? What would your holy grail be, to use Bill's phrase?
Well, I think we're all on the same page, really. Mike's the data linkage is extraordinarily poor, and I've been involved with a few projects to sort it out, and it isn't easy. And I think the problem is most of the companies we buy stuff off, they purposely don't make it easy. So I think that's a real challenge, because I think that whole, going back to the last, the greenhouse gases and emissions, there's a massive opportunity to use technology to reduce that. And what I'd like to see innovated is how do we do feed intakes? Because we all think we know what our best cow is, but if our best cow's eating twice as much food, she isn't our best cow anymore, is she?
No.
So I think that's a real challenge. The thing that I really like to see innovation is going back to another couple topics ago. How do we tell not our milk buyer, not our retailer, but how do we tell our actual person who consumes our product about what we do? And I think there's a huge amount of innovation we can learn from the likes of oat milks and juice companies. Their packaging is good. They tell we talk about, we don't tell our consumers what we're doing. We've got a massive opportunity every day. We have to tell them, not on the back in small print, tell them on the front.
Yeah, I agree with you, Neil. I was fortunate enough to dial into the Professor Hughes thing, AHDB. I thought you made a really good point that it's words that sell products. Especially when you look at the red meat sector, it's 30-day aged, it's oak smoked, it's all the rest of it. Whereas, we tend to just, maybe it's an issue because we just tend to pick up milk and we get the green one, the blue one, the red one, or whichever one we buy as consumers. Maybe a little bit more work needs to go into that, perhaps. But we shall see in the developing future. Philip, you got a great unit up there in North Yorkshire. What sort of innovation would you like to see for your farm particularly, or across the whole industry? If you can lean in and shout up, Philip, that would be great for me.
Well, the other guys have touched on it, the data, pulling all the data together, that would be a massive step in the right direction. But again, I've learned it's not easy, but at least it's work in progress. And on quite a practical innovation that I think would be great, if there was a fantastic method of sheeting silage clamps up that isn't labour intensive, whether it be some enzyme that could be spread on the top that flexes as it settles, something like that. I'm sure there'd be a lot of money for a firm to be made if they could develop some system like that.
Excellent. Having done a bit of work on dairy farms in my farming days, I couldn't agree more with you. I lost track of the amount of wet wellies I had on by the time the water had come down out the tyres and down the overalls. But anyway, so thank you for that. We're just coming up. We've got about 10-15 minutes left to go. I think I'm going to fire a question that I've actually come up with because I just feel as a financier to the sector, as someone who works within the financial sector, I can go on a dairy farm and I can ask about that dairy farm. Tell me about your dairy farm. I usually get cow numbers, yields, family history, which is all good. It's all excellent background. If I was a banker in manufacturing to someone who made, cans or lids or whatever widget they were making, and I asked about the business, I'd get told what cost of production is and how much they sold it for and all about their contracts. So I suppose my question is this: are we a little bit yield obsessed in UK dairying? And are we getting a little bit confused? Productivity is a huge watchword. Are we misinterpreting what productivity is? Because to me, as a banker, productivity is the amount of money you're making for the input you got. I think Neil made the point that if your best cow from yield is eating twice as much food, it might not actually be your best cow. Do you think we're a little bit yield obsessed, Philip? We'll stay with you. You're on the screen.
No, I don't, because you've got two groups of dairy farmers. You've got the high input, high output guys, and then you've got the low input, low output guys, and both systems are doing well, and there's great operators in both systems. Personally, I prefer the high yielding system because, you know, with any business, you know, the more turnover you can generate, that's a good thing, and then you've got to work on your costs. And as long as you've got like quality forage,
sorry, Philip, just got on. Hi, everybody listening in. Someone slipped off mute. Can you just pop it on? Just if you are listening in, dialed in, can you please just check your mute button, please?
You're at home, can you email it on your computer?
Excellent. Sorry about that. I'm scrolling down the list to see who isn't on mute. I might have to name and shame in a minute. Right, we'll go with it. Sorry, Philip, you'll just have to shout even louder, I'm afraid. Sorry.
As long as the cows are looked after well health-wise, not bought unsustainably, that works for us at Washfold.
Perfect, lovely. Neil, are we yield obsessed as an industry? Is that all that matters?
Well, I think that the obsession with yield has been driven from the contracts. The contracts have demanded litres and farmers have made litres. Arla are very clearly possibly produce less litres and more solids, but you still get the same amount of money. And I think it's been a big push in the industry to dilute costs with litres, but you don't dilute costs with litres, you do dilute costs with how much money you get back. So we have to stop looking at things in a PPL basis if you're not on a liquid contract. But so I think that's where it's come from. I don't think I think we are slightly obsessed, and I don't think it's helpful at all. Because what's the point of hauling around, 6-7% solids milk when you could be hauling around 8% solids milk? There's a huge difference. And talk about carbon. This white water is not a very friendly thing to cart around the countryside. No,
I wouldn't disagree at all with you, Neil. We have got a question that's come in from Derek Armstrong. Seeing as how Neil and Philip have just answered the last ones, and I promised Mike I'm not going to come to him first again. Bill, Bill, it's coming your way, my friend. It's really complicated, this one. So no, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, Bill. What would you as dairy farmers want from animal health and welfare, from the animal health and welfare pathway, and what are the biggest opportunities to improve animal health? Obviously, we all know it doesn't matter whether it's cows, pigs, sheep, whatever livestock you're doing, unhealthy animals aren't productive. So we are rightfully obsessed with animal health. But what are the biggest opportunities to improve animal health, Bill?
Thanks for that. I was looking forward to answering the previous question.
You can answer that one as well if you like.
Yeah, well, let me have a lash at this one first. So, I mean, it is touching on data. It's the reliability of data, because all of us know that we're looking for antibiotic reduction, we're looking for a reduction in disease, but it is actually capturing that data, quality data off farm and off from different multiple systems, and actually using that data to help drive decision making. So I will combine it with the previous question. So we target 3 kilos of solids a day off our cows. We're high yielding, but we're still targeting those solids. So at the moment, we have been for a number of months now doing every day, day in, day out, over 3 kilos of solids. And we're doing those 3 kilos of solids wrapped up in it's contract specific with how you package it up. So we're sort of running at about 41.7 litres a cow a day sold. The big thing that we shouldn't lose sight of, because we are as an industry obsessed with yield, and there's too many people obsessed with yield who don't have the right machine, as in the cow or the system, to cope with it. So as long as, and it touches on what Philip said, we don't go for yield at the cost of health and welfare and longevity at the cow, there is no issue. And how we package that, you know, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that people talk about big yields. We should focus on solids, and not on a solids contract, but at the end of the day, the limiting factor of the cow's ability is the amount of solids you can produce. How you package it is more specific to your contract. But it is about capturing that data and utilising it. So, you know, we've been hard into antibiotic reduction. We've had 13 cases of mastitis since the 1st of April on 530 cows. We've had 4 DAs. We've got a replacement rate of 24%. Every cow that's leaving the farm is basically doing a minimum of 49,500 litres. So we are achieving the yields without compromising that welfare. So a bit of a long-winded answer, but I've tried to combine the two questions.
And you've done it very well, Bill. I think, you know, for me as a banker, the yield is irrelevant. If someone's coming, you know, we talk about investment, we talk about where's money going to come from. You know, there are grants, it could be elms, but by far and away, you know, the first port of call is usually the bank for large-scale investments for many. And yields to us as a bank, you know, it's really interesting background information, and some of the yields are just stupendous, you know. But actually, what we're interested in, of course, it sounds very basic, but we just want to know if you can pay us the money back. And for me, that's a margin question, not a yield question. Mike, we will come to you. You can combine both questions as well and see if you can do it as eloquently as Bill did.
I'm not sure I can.
Well, in that case, you can go straight to the question about where are the biggest gains to improve animal health, do you feel?
Yeah, I think biggest gains, and I mean, I would talk about industry wide here. I mean, most of us here are under, you know, with our milk retail buyers or our milk buyers are under some pretty strict, or not strict schemes, but some pretty well governed, well thought out schemes. You know, for us, you know, lameness has been a real target that we've looked at. We have regular audits. We had our RSPCA audit only a couple of weeks ago, and you know, they no score 3s and only 2% score 2s on the whole farm. So that's an area we've really focused on. It's in, you know, and the same with the antibiotic reduction. The industry, as an industry wide, though, I think that antibiotic reduction, everybody's aware of that. Everybody's doing, you know, making great strides, whether that's, you know, with selective dry cow therapy, using no critical antibiotics. Still think that lameness is that one out there that, you know, is that elephant in the room that, you know, we haven't got lame. You hear it quite often. I haven't got any lame cows, but then there's always, when you see the cows walk across the road in front of you, there's always 10 cows at the back who can hardly walk. And, you know, I still think there's a lot of work to be done in that area as an industry that, you know, we need to treat lameness more seriously than we do. You know, if you get a cow, you know, a cow that's got mastitis or an ill cow, you get the vet to it, or you get it sorted or whatever straight away. And I think we need to, you know, get that same sort of urgency in and around the lame cow, that if she's lame on a Sunday morning, we got to get him sorted out straight away, you know, and that's, from a public point of view, that's you know, it's a major impact. If the general public are out there and they see a cow that's struggling to walk, I mean, it's not doing our industry any good whatsoever.
No, absolutely, Mike. Well, we've got a couple of questions come in. We've got 5 minutes if we run to time, but we could always overrun a little bit. I think I'll come to you with this first, Neil, if I may. How do we get the whole industry to play a role in funding promoting dairy? Obviously, we've got the levy, AHDB. We've got processors hooked up in the group of Dairy UK. But this questioner says that'll only get us so far. There's a huge number of companies attend Dairy Tech and other shows. How do we get everyone to part fund the marketing activity? So, Neil, we'll come to you with that.
I think we have to get on to our members who are our representatives on AHDB, get them to change basis of what HGB are allowed to do, and they need to put the levy up a lot. We're not going to invest our way out of this without a big milk price. You know, we pay a fraction of what they do in the States. We need to invest in it, and if we're going to do it as an industry, we all have to do it together. And then the milk buyers then have to come on message with what they're talking about in their commercials. That, you know, at the end of every commercial, it needs to have the HDB on it, doesn't it? And I think it's got to be integrated, and we have to get the right farmers on these boards to make it happen. And that's the challenge. You know, we need to have on this call the people who are representing it as HDB. What are they doing about it? You know, we're too busy farming at home, aren't we?
Yeah, it can be a common issue that, like you say, you focus so much at home that perhaps there isn't time to get out there and do what you would want to do. Philip, I'll come to you with the same question, then I'm going to change the question over because time's getting tight and there's another couple come in, which I'm quite intrigued to hear some answers. So, Philip, how do we get everybody involved in the industry to fund marketing activity?
I totally agree with Neil. Neil answered the question really well. The HDB is the organisation that links us all more than anyone. So with the levy that we pay, they're probably best placed to make it happen. But obviously, have the right people on, you know, on committees and boards, you know, that are going to make it happen properly.
Sure. I think for me, you know, we can look at the whole industry and all those sort of ancillaries, and obviously Barclays is one part funding it. I think for me that those commercial businesses are that's a cost that's only going to get charged back in one way, shape or form. If I'm honest, and it doesn't matter how you supply the industry. So I think it probably does boil down to levy and what have you. Right, there's a question come in, which is continuous maize cropping or 50% maize for higher yielding herds going to fit in with net zero and public good conversation, i.e. soil organic matter levels? That is an anonymous question. I'm going to come to I'll come to you, Bill, but I'll fashion an answer while I give you some thinking time, Bill. I think for me that could potentially be a challenge. I think the main challenge there is probably going to be soil erosion, soil runoff, but potentially, you know, an awful lot of muck goes on maize crops. It's an awful good, almost like a break crop given its late sowing season. And I think it just comes back to, and I apologise to the panel, I think it might have been Bill, but you know, it's all about the little things. There is no one big picture that's going to get us to net zero. It's about tiny pieces of a jigsaw. It's probably about 5,000 pieces, and it is going to take some time to put together. So, Bill, what's continuous maize cropping? Is that going to be a challenge? Public good conversations and soil organic matter?
It's something that our business has taken head on a number of years ago. So yeah, you can't do it. It just can't be done. It's, you know, we've managed to align ourselves with a number of arable farmers, so that we've actually exported our maize growing off farm and then put it into their rotation as a blackgrass break crop. So, you know, we've got 4 arable farmers growing contract maize for us. There is a cost to hauling that maize and putting it on wheels. You know, we've stopped growing maize at home. We just grow wheat at home as a break crop to go round as far as our reseeding policy. I mean, we have done, in good years, we've established grass behind maize. We've done all sorts of things. But we look at the ground, you know, our farm's a very good grass growing farm. It's not an ideal maize farm, but we look at the ground that we've mauled over the years, and we've taken a long-term view before now to actually address that issue, to step away from it. So yeah, like I said, we've aligned ourselves to get away from that. It looks terrible. Soil running out of the gate looks bad. It is bad, and it's for the long-term quality of the ground. And let's face it, you know, me and Andrew are allegedly good dairy farmers. We're not the best arable farmers, but if you can align yourself with professional arable farmers, it goes back to that dewatering the slurry. There is a lot of alignments that we can all make within the industry, with a wider industry, that can benefit all of us and all of the environment and the consumer as well. So yeah. Certainly,
I was in, I won't name the county, but I was in the south, big arable farming area there, Bill. A lot of sort of rolling countryside in torrential rain, and the water coming off the fields. There must literally have been tons of soil erosion, and that's you know, this is where public money for public good, elms, etc., is going to come in. You know, we need these beetle banks to hold that soil up. We need, you know, we need to just up our game a little bit and spread the word and spread the message of all the things we are doing. But certainly, it does seem to be a theme. You know, that broader collaboration across different sectors within agriculture, because somewhere it's all part of that 5,000 piece jigsaw, in my opinion. So we'll leave that question there, because I think that was a brilliant answer. Thank you, Bill. We've got one more question that has come in. We're a little bit over time, but we're not really getting people dropping off, so we'll stick with it for a short period longer. So the question is this: are genetics delivering for dairy farmers to produce the right cow needed on a progressive commercial farm today? Now then, there's a very technical question, which luckily as a pig farmer, a banker, I'm not going to have a stab at the answer of. It's coming from John Henning, and I think we'll go to Mr. Mason in North Yorkshire. Sorry, Philip, not much thinking time. I have tried, but are genetics delivering for dairy farmers to produce the right sort of cow in the modern world?
Yes, I think they definitely have the potential to, and they are doing. In our case, we're genomic testing all our female heifer calves, and we've got animals up to third, fourth calvers that are genomic tested, and they are definitely performing better than the herd mates on health traits like mastitis, lameness. It's all been recorded in a project. So my answer to that is, it's early days, but I think 10 years down the line, when all, you know, the people that are adopting this technology, I think we've got some real exciting, you know, results coming around the corner.
Fantastic. I'll work backwards, but that's on my list. So I'll come to you next, Neil. What are your thoughts on modern genetics for the modern progressive commercial dairy unit?
Yeah, I think they're absolutely essential, and all the way back to carbon. You know, these cows, looking at the new genomic measures on feed efficiency, they're going to be essential. The thing that always astounds me is when you look at the AHDB website, which is another great function AHDB do. You know, we're always top 5, top 1%, but you have to look at the bottom, don't you, and say that's all the cows in the country on that list. There's still a lot of people milking a lot of cows, which obviously don't focus on genetics at all. And I think, you know, from a point of view, there's a massive win on milking better cows, even if how we get the focus of the other half of the industry to pull the bottom end up is a challenge, I think, because the genetics companies work really well with people who like genetics, but they don't work very well with people who don't.
Yeah, I think there is some statistic, isn't there, Neil, that there's something like I think it's 280 million dairy producing animals around the world, and if they operated with the efficiency we have in the UK, that would only need to be 80 million. Well, that's a massive reduction in carbon footprint, and yet still we look at our sector in the UK and say, you know, there's still, those socks could still be pulled up quite a bit yet, couldn't they, as a sector across. Bill, we'll come back to you on the genetics question, and then I might let Mike off.
Yes, it's about having the right cow for your system. You know, we're very fortunate to have a fantastic herd of cows, and we're riding the wave. We're just trying to deliver whatever that cow needs to do the job. The genetics has moved on, you know, in the last 20, 30 years. Fundamentally, the cows are, despite the fact that people hammer Holsteins, I believe now that they are much, much healthier, much, much more robust, much better suited to the system. You know, we've got the technical performance. We don't have the levels of mastitis. We don't use the antibiotics. You know, we don't have the levels of lameness. You know, the cows have great longevity. You know, it can be done. It's about, there is some fantastic cows out there. It is about whether the people have the skills to manage those cows, and are they the right cows in the right environment, be it physical environment, as in sheds or infrastructure, or the right headspace for the people who are running them. Are they tuned in? It's no good having Lewis Hamilton driving a Land Rover thinking he's going to win a Formula One race. Like, so
He probably still could, to be honest, Bill, the way he drives.
He'd give it a good shot, but yes.
Ironically, I live in an area where a lot of people drive Land Rovers thinking they're Lewis Hamilton. So, but anyway, I'm guilty as charged as well in my farming days, probably. Mike, we will come to you. Have you got any particular thoughts on genetics and where they're heading? And then I think we'll just begin to wrap it up. So, any particular succinct thoughts, Mike?
Not really. I'll probably agree with what Bill said, really, and Neil and Philip. I think genetics are essential. I think those of us that are involved with it, with the genomic testing, and I think that feed efficiency thing is a really important step forward as well. And we're investing in that area of our business. I think we will get some really good gains in that in the years to come.
Excellent. There's just a sort of follow-up from a question talking about soil erosion, where I was talking about beetle banks, and maybe that's where public money, public good should go on soil erosion. And Phil, Christopher, thank you for the comment. It says surely keeping soil in fields is a matter for which tenant and landlord should lose or gain, rather than public money being spent on it. Yeah, I'm possibly inclined to agree with you. Well, we're going to wrap it up. It had to happen in this modern world of lockdown and working from home. A delivery driver's come to the door, so apologies if you can hear a rather mental Labrador barking at the door. I'm going to wrap it up with one question. I want really quick answers from you all. I won't throttle. I was going to say I'll throttle the dog after this. I won't. It's a gorgeous animal. And I don't want complaints. I'm going to just a one sentence answer, and it doesn't have to be on the farm. And we'll stick with you, Mike. What's the best money you've spent this year, Mike? Go on. We're all farmers at the end of the day. We like a bit of investment, but even if it's away from the farm.
No, it's the shops haven't been open, so I haven't bought anything else other than buy online. So for me, without a shadow of a doubt, moving from Sage to Zero was the best thing we've done this year. To have real lifetime data on every single thing we do has been the best thing. I've made major decisions on. I'm not doing that anymore. I get a contractor. Just by having that information at your fingertips has been really invaluable.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. The dogs continue to bark. I may throttle it after this, after all. Bill, best money you've spent in 2020?
It's not shiny kit or anything like that. It's probably surrounding yourselves with the best professionals that you can find.
Excellent. Good answer. As a Yorkshire pig farmer I used to work for said, the only problem with machinery is it's just scrap waiting to happen. That was his view on it. But he was never frightened of buying a new spade and wheelbarrow when I was there, but he was a very good man. Neil, best money you've spent in 2020?
We switched over to a new feed wagon with Cow Connect, which has revolutionised our forage operations. Weighed is all linked to the tractors. The tractors are linked to Weighed. The forage clamps are now weighed in, and that's connected to the feed program. Every time we feed it out, it's part of that data linkage. That's been a massive step forward for us.
Excellent. Thank you. Philip, where's the best money come out of the Mason pocket this year?
Definitely in health and safety infrastructure on the farm. We all assume people have common sense when they're going around doing the jobs, but some don't. And we've invested in health and safety infrastructure, signing everyone off on the training, big push with that, and it's probably taken us to a new level, in HR. So,
excellent. Thank you very much. I'm sure Matt Knight is on the line. I'm sure he would tell me that the best investment you can make in 2020 is in RABDF membership, so he's definitely asked me to mention that. But I think what we need to do is join together. We've talked an awful lot about co-working, and not just between dairy farmers, but across the arable sectors and probably sheep sector as well. I would just like to say thank you to the sponsors again. I'll give 4 Farmers and Laley a huge mention. I'm too modest to mention Barclays on any great scale. I'd like to thank you all for dialing in and being on mute. And I'd also like to thank Mike and Bill, Neil and Philip, for their time today. It seems to be this is the new world. I would also say we've talked about labour an awful lot, and there is, if you go on the RABDF website, there's quite an in-depth report on farm labour on dairy units. Very interesting report. I enjoyed reading it. And with that, I will sign off, allow you to get on with your days. It was very gloomy in Lancashire when we started, so hopefully the sun's shining where you are now and you can get some outdoor jobs done. Thank you all for dialing in. Thank you.
Thank you.